Rainbow Reflections, Book 2, Put Out the Fire. Chapter 18, A Winter's Tale. Hyakdu did not show up the next day, nor the day after that. He called briefly to tell them that the government had indeed arrived at the school, but he didn't say anything more. After a bit of hesitation, Jabali brought the three teens to his shop, claiming that he would fight Kaokat off if they somehow found their location. Mint met them at Cool Coffee shortly after their arrival, then the group of five entered. The scent of coffee hit them at once, Zin grumbling in dismay as they covered their nose. Though the outside world was frigid, the place was packed with people and the air was stuffy indoors. People were talking so loudly that the music could barely be heard. Marsh and C3 were the only two people working, the latter moving much slower next to his experienced counterpart. Zin's heart sunk at the sight of the redhead, forgetting that he had worked for Jabali over the summer. "Well, this is gonna feel like last year's art club, isn't it?" they commented to nobody in particular.
"Coming through!"
Jabali called out to the customers, trying to clear a path for the teens.
"Got some new workers coming through!"
The customers parted, some smiling kindly while others looked annoyed. The kids then trailed Jabali through the tables and chairs until they were moving past the front counter and to the back room. Ren closed the door behind them, muffling the chattering customers outside.
"We've got some official paperwork to get you set up before you can start,"
Jabali said, nearly tripping over a box as he headed for his desk on the right-hand side.
"Once you fill these out, we'll get y'all right out there to start serving them customers. Here, throw these on while I get the papers."
He tossed them each a blue shirt that contained the Cool Coffee logo. Zin held the cotton up in front of them, taking a closer look at the coffee mug with sunglasses. Snorting, they pulled off their patterned robe and put the work shirt over their striped one. The others did the same, Sorella huffing in annoyance the entire time.
"What you so angry about?"
Jabali chuckled as he returned with a few stacks of paper, passing out two to Zin and Mint. "I don't want to work," Sorella groaned.
"Well, you're here, so you might as well, especially as all my other employees want time off,"
Jabali replied, passing her a packet.
"And if I don't want him abandoning me in the future, I've gotta let him have days off every now and then, you know. Plus, your dad would be happy to see you kiddos becoming more responsible."
Sorella snorted. "It's not like he's my father," she muttered. "Come on, Sorella, it'll be fun," Ren said, nudging her playfully. Sorella said nothing in response, her jaw clenching. Ren's face fell, but she quickly smiled again as Jabali handed her a packet too. When Ren wasn't looking, Zin stuck their tongue out at Sorella, who promptly ignored them. After they filled out the paperwork with basic information, Jabali brought them to the front. At this point, he sent C3 to the back to work on dishes, as there were too many people behind the counter, especially as Jabali and Mint were already taking up more space than the others. Luckily, after a quick tour, Jabali assigned them each to do specific tasks, telling them that he trained them more officially later. Zin and Ren got to work at the drink station with Jabali, Sorella learned the register from Marsh, and Mint had to join C3 in the back for dishes. The drink station was very stressful to manage, especially with so many customers waiting. Zin and Ren thankfully worked well together, speaking telepathically to hear one another better. Ren would read the ingredients to Zin while Zin collected them, Jabali pointing out the recipes and where items were stocked. He'd sometimes leave them to grab more supplies from the back, allowing Zin and Ren to figure things out on their own. After a few hours, the kids switched roles, with the twins learning the register, which included grabbing baked treats from beneath the counter to pass out to customers, and Sorella doing dishes while Mint went to the drink station. However, Mint was quickly overwhelmed with the task that they switched with Sorella, content to stay in the back where it was less overstimulating. The day flew by, ending with Jabali teaching them how to clean the store. Zin wiped off the tables while Ren swept the lobby. Sorella and Mint restocked the front area. C3 and Marsh, who had opened the store, were already gone.
"Y'all will be professional coffee makers in no time,"
Jabali laughed as he locked the door on their way out. "That was pretty stressful," Zin grumbled. "And my head hurts. Those blenders are so annoying."
"You'll get used to it,"
Jabali assured them with an evil grin. "Are we allowed to use magic?" Ren asked. "I'd love to use my air magic to sweep more effectively." Jabali snorted at this.
"Well, I ain't gonna say no, as y'all have your magic channeling certifications, but I'd prefer if you didn't, as I don't trust y'all not to make more of a mess. I still remember that time your father tried to help me rake up some leaves by blowing them all over the place and...
He shook his head.
Yeah, that ain't happening again. Sorry, kiddo, but stick to using the broom only, please.
The week flew by, Zin gradually enjoying the job more and more. They didn't like it as much as Ren, who loved to greet customers and do her best to make each person's drink perfect, but it was still nice. The biggest downside was the massive crowds of people wanting hot drinks in the cold weather, which quickly overwhelmed Zin. They preferred to work on the register during these moments, the drink station too arduous. Zin didn't mind their co-workers either. Though Marsh and Sorella seemed to compete with who was moodier and quieter, everyone else was fun to work with. Ren was the perfect co-worker, always ready to aid Zin whenever they needed it. Jabali was fun to be around, loving to make jokes and chat with anyone. Mint became more accustomed to the environment and was soon able to take the register, though they continued to avoid the blunders. Even C3 was more enjoyable to work with over the grumbling Sorella. One day, Ren and Sorella had opened together, but the two girls fell behind and required Jabali's assistance. Sorella had burned several pans of muffins by neglecting to put the timer on, and she did a sloppy job of icing the cinnamon rolls. When Zin and C3 clocked in halfway through the girls' shifts, Ren instantly vented to Zin about Sorella. I just don't understand why she doesn't do her job properly. Ren's huffing voice echoed loudly in Zin's head as they reached for a pumpkin pie slice to hand out to a customer. Yeah, she's always leaving chores halfway done despite marking them on the list as done, or she doesn't even do them in the first place, Zin complained, nearly forgetting to thank the customer for stopping by. Ren sighed audibly next to Zin as she grabbed a container of almond blend from the small fridge next to the register. I know she didn't want to work here, but her work ethic is terrible. She does a better job on her homework, and she already doesn't care about that. All she cares about is martial arts, and she seems really grumpy that she can't do it much now that we're at Jabali's. Zin had noticed that Sorella couldn't train much. Even if she wasn't working, she and the twins had to remain inside the coffee shop until they all went back to Jabali's house, which meant she got no training in after her shift. And Jabali's home was too cramped for her to practice indoors, so she'd have to go outside, where the snowy weather was hit or miss. This seemed to dampen Sorella's mood greatly, and she barely spoke to any of them, even Ren. Zin understood why Sorella would be feeling cooped up, as they also felt restrained, but they didn't understand her sour attitude. Zin? Ren asked a bit hesitantly, as Zin passed out more pastries to a group of 6 people, doing their best to remember what had been ordered. Hold on a sec. They finished ringing up the customer at the register, thanking them for the tip. Luckily, the next person in line was still placing their order with Jabali. It seemed to be a large one, allowing Zin to put more focus on their sister. What is it? Ren bit her bottom lip, glancing over her shoulder at Zin before returning to the blender in front of her. I just was wondering, if you didn't know any better, would you think Sorella and I are even dating? Zin stared at her for a long moment, blinking dazedly. They turned their attention back to the register, staring at the glass with a frown. After the customer had finished placing the order with Jabali, they replied, I guess not. I don't mean to be rude, but you two haven't really been clicking lately, or acting like girlfriends in the first place. I'm sorry, I know that's probably not the answer you want, but it's an honest one.
Yo, Zin, you get all that?
Jabali called, as the customer approached Zin. No, Zin said awkwardly. Zoned out, sorry.
Stop talking to your twin and pay attention,
chortled Jabali, his eyes sparkling in mirth. Zin smiled, glad that they weren't in trouble, and amused that Jabali had picked up on the fact that the twins were in a telepathic conversation. They quickly refocused on the job, asking the customer for their large order to ring up properly. The rest of the day went by fast, Ren and Sorella clocking out and moving to the lobby. Zin tried to look over at them from time to time, wondering if Ren was going to bring up anything with Sorella, but it seemed that both of the girls were ignoring each other. More like Sorella's ignoring Ren, and Ren's wondering what to say, reflected Zin. Before Zin knew it, the closing hour had arrived. There weren't any customers in line, so Zin and C3 were able to focus on cleaning up the store. Zin had to get a fresh rag to wipe off the tables, so they went to the back after restocking the front counter. C3 was doing dishes, holding his wand before him as he used his air magic to lift a dish from the sink to the rack above it. Zin snorted. You really do take every opportunity to practice magic, don't you? They commented. C3 jumped in fright, the dish falling from his grasp. Zin swiftly caught it before it could clatter to the floor. They passed it back to C3, who merely held onto it and stared at Zin. Don't worry, I'm not gonna tell Jabali, they teased, feeling a little awkward as C3 remained quiet. I don't really care if you do magic back here, so long as you get your job done, we can leave on time. They swiveled around, but before they could take more than 2 steps, C3 spoke in a soft voice.
I'm sorry.
Zin stopped in their tracks, blinking in surprise. They turned back around with a frown. What?
I'm sorry.
C3 repeated dully, staring at his feet.
I'm sorry that I acted like a jerk to you and stole Mint's notes. But please note that the hoverboat incident was not my doing, and thus I will not be apologizing for it.
Zin gaped at the boy. But why are you apologizing? They mumbled in confusion. C3 glanced up at them. He hesitated, then murmured,
It has been nice to work alongside you here, and I realize that, even if you are non-magical, you are still a good person who I would not mind becoming acquainted with. I enjoy the conversations we have had, too.
Zin raised an eyebrow at that. Oftentimes, Ren would begin conversations with C3, as she did with everyone, and Zin would jump in after. Zin was mostly talking to their twin rather than to C3 in these cases, or making jokes for everyone to laugh at. Okay, Zin finally uttered at last, not knowing what else to say. Thank you for apologizing, and I'm sorry too, for blaming you for the hoverboat thing, and, anything else I might have done. C3 nodded once, then pocketed his wand as he continued his task. Zin watched him for a moment, then walked away, lost in their thoughts. They returned to the front without the rag, quickly going back to grab it. After the store is closed, Jabali and Ren waved goodbye to C3. Zin found themselves joining in too, though they still felt bemused about the matter. The four then walked along the icy streets to return to Jabali's boat, making small talk on the way. They had just reached the boat when jazz music started playing from Jabali's pocket. He pulled out his mirror to reveal Hyaktu's image on the glass, and he answered at once.
Yo, Hyaktu!
Jabali called cheerfully.
How's it going?
Hyaktu did not answer the question as he asked, How are all of you? Another good day of work, you three? Yeah, it was fun, Ren said brightly. Though I am a little tired from the opening hours. It was pretty stressful and we fell a bit behind.
I'm sorry to hear that, Hyaktu said, but each day of work is a valuable learning experience.
Ren nodded at once. Of course.
Is that a new haircut I'm seeing?
Hyaktu asked, shifting closer to the mirror to peer at Ren. She nodded, taking her fuzzy hat off her head to show off her new look. Ren hadn't wanted to tie up her hair every day, claiming it was bad for her hair and felt restricting. She therefore asked Jabali if she could get a haircut the previous day. Her purple hair was still parted to the left and stuck up in several places, but it was now chin length to match Zin's. Hyaktu grinned. Ugh, I just want to reach forward and ruffle your hair. You're so cute. Zin snorted. Dad, she just looks like she did a few years ago when we were kids. You're still kids, Hyaktu noted. And you two are cute no matter what hairstyle you get. Dad, Zin chortled. Anyway, how are you doing? Ren asked. Hyaktu's playful smile fell from his lips and he let out a soft sigh as he rubbed at his eyes. When he opened them again, he looked older and worn out. Unfortunately, the government is still here. They're inspecting the whole place, even the students' rooms. Luckily, Fern managed to get rid of the mushrooms in time, and there's been no sign of Mimeta or Kaokat thus far. I hope it remains that way. I don't know when the agents are going to leave, though, because we still have yet to get out there and look for Aster.
Want me to go looking?
Jabali asked, hopping in the boat and signaling for the kids to follow. No, Hyaktu said at once, shaking his head as much as the quivering boat as the teens got in. You need to watch the kids. I can't have you getting captured too. It's bad enough I can't renew the enchantments on your house or put any on the shop yet. He sighed. Hopefully I'll get over there soon. Just, please be careful.
We will, don't you be worrying about us,
Jabali said.
Now go get some food in ya and just deal with one thing at a time.
Hyaktu sighed. Easier said than done, but you're right. I'll call in a few days. He hung up the mirror before anyone could say anything else. Jabali pocketed his own, then stomped on the floor of the boat, pushing it in action. The vessel was soon gliding along the slick stone roads, headed for the hill outside the city. Freezing wind beat at their faces, Ren's cheeks turning pink across from Zin. Nobody spoke as they went. At least, not aloud. Do you think Dad's going to be okay? Ren asked her twin telepathically, biting her bottom lip. Zin nodded. Of course he will. Why wouldn't he be? He's Dad, after all. He can handle anything. I'm just a little worried that he's getting overwhelmed by everything, especially with how long the government's been staying. What if they shut down the school over winter break? They wouldn't do that. Zin paused. Would they? Ren shrugged, clutching the seat of the rowboat tightly as they hurtled over a bump. I just wish I could help him out, share the burden. Yeah, but what can we do? Initiate a search and rescue for Aster? Dad already told Jabali not to do that, and I know you'd have issue with... Of course I don't want us to do that. Who knows where Aster is, and who knows how dangerous Kaokat might be. Besides, Dad would never want us putting ourselves in danger like that. No, Zin, we have to stay put. Then I have no idea how to help Dad, Zin said bluntly, wincing as the boat now bumped along up the slope. Ren sighed audibly. Me either. I just feel bad that I don't know how to help. That I can't help. Yeah, I know you like to help everyone you can, but I can't think of anything we'd be able to do, besides, listening to his orders and all that. Ren pulled her fuzzy hat down over her eyes, her shoulders slumping in defeat. She did not say another word until the boat slid to a stop in front of Jabali's house. When everyone clambered out, Zin jumping into the snow and finding up to their knees, she approached Jabali. Jabali? Can you teach us some advanced kung fu again? Ren asked a bit hesitantly. Like you did over summer break? Jabali considered her for a moment, then glanced over at Zin and Sorella. He smiled and nodded.
Sure thing.
I don't want to do kung fu, I just want to wash off, Sorella uttered, and she shoved open the stone door and entered the house without looking at any of them. Nobody spoke for a long moment, then Ren let out an annoyed sound and kicked the snow, sending it flying at a pulsing bush several meters away. The bush quivered and sent the snow back at her. Why is she being like this? She grumbled as she wiped off her face. I'm trying to help her. Doesn't she want to train?
Maybe she just needs some time alone,
Jabali suggested lightly.
In the meantime, though, I can still teach the two of you some cool stuff.
Ren took a deep breath, then released it. She dipped her head to Jabali. I'm sorry for being frustrated. I'm going to try talking to her. She then scampered inside the house too, pushing the stone door shut. Zin blinked in surprise. It wasn't every day that they saw Ren's irritated side after all. Their mind took a moment to process what had happened, that they didn't realize Jabali was staring at them expectantly.
You up for some martial arts?
Sure, Zin exclaimed, springing out of the snow.
Let's find someplace better for it,
Jabali said. He led the way from the house, Zin hurrying after him and kicking up snow in their wake. They didn't go too far from the house. In fact, the icy boulder could still be seen when looking through the trees at the right angle, though it blended in well with the white and gray background. The two stopped before entering a clearing, Jabali holding his arm out to prevent Zin from moving forward. The man then stomped on the snow and did an uppercut in the air. As he did so, the ground shook, chunks of glittering snow breaking apart. A moment later, a raised stone platform stood in front of them, no longer covered in snow as it had fallen off.
There we go,
Jabali said with a nod of satisfaction. Zin grinned. Awesome! They hopped onto the stone, nearly slipping on ice. Jabali quickly grabbed hold of their arm, helping them stand up straight. Thanks, Zin chuckled uneasily. That would have hurt. Jabali got on more cautiously.
Yeah, too bad your dad ain't here to make all this ice melt and get off the rock, but this will do. Just be careful, okay?
Zin nodded. Is it hard to use your earth magic when there's a bunch of snow and ice over the stone? They pondered aloud.
Used to be,
He replied casually.
but I've perfected the technique over the years. I know there's stone beneath my feet, and that's good enough for me to be able to manipulate the earth.
Coolio! Jabali assumed a square stance in front of them, his knees boxed out over his toes.
Ya ready?
Zin slid their left foot into a square stance as well, nearly falling into the splits as they did so. Apparently not, they commented, fixing their stance as they found an ice-free spot on the rock. Now I am,
Let's take a look at your Poonkyu.
Jabali said. Poonkyu? Zin grumbled. But that's the green sash level. I thought you were going to teach me advanced stuff.
I am.
Jabali remarked, his eyes shining.
So turn in your bow stance and show me your Poonkyu.
Zin turned to their left so that their left knee was over their toes and their right leg was straight. At the same time, they did a circular block with their right arm, moving counterclockwise and covering their whole body. Their right hand ended up at their right hip, while their left hand remained in a fist at their left ribs. Jabali considered them for a moment, then said,
Almost. You gotta smooth it out. It's too angular right now, and making something angular will take too long to block properly.
He showed off his own Poonkyu, which was rounder than Zin's box-like block. It snapped in place a lot faster, too.
Try that a few times.
Instructed Jabali. Zin did so, letting out a sharp breath to match the timing of their block. After 10 times on each side, Jabali called for them to stop, Zin looking up at him expectantly.
Better, much better.
Jabali said.
Now, do you notice what else was off with your Poonkyu? You're accelerating the beginning and slowing down the end. You want to have it the other way around, where it speeds up at the end.
Jabali showed off his Poonkyu several times, Zin staring hard to try and get the details in. They frowned, struggling to see the difference. Wordlessly, Zin did another Poonkyu, putting focus on speeding up and snapping the end.
Yeah, sorta.
Jabali said, rocking his hand side to side.
Try again.
Zin tried and tried, but Jabali didn't seem pleased with any blocks they did.
Well, it's definitely getting better. It'll just take some more time and focus to correct it.
Jabali said at last. Zin sighed. I thought I had the Poonkyu down by now. I thought I did it better than the other students. Dad always complimented how big I made the motion.
Yeah, big motion likely means you're using the body and not just the arms.
Jabali said with a nod.
But you gotta remember that your dad is also speeding up the Kung Fu in order to get everyone through it in 4 years. Or 3. And with looking out for everyone, he ain't have time to detail each single student.
Zin huffed in annoyance. Why bother adding Kung Fu to the curriculum if we're not learning it properly then?
You're still learning how to defend yourself.
Jabali pointed out, standing feet together.
If you were attacked right now, I bet you could do something to protect yourself and do damage to an enemy.
Zin shrugged in response, not so certain. So, what's the advanced thing you were gonna show me? Jabali opened his mouth, but his eyes drifted over Zin's shoulder and he did not speak. Zin turned around just in time to see a purple-furred creature dart away through the snow. Was that?
Kaioken!
Jabali huffed. Before Zin knew what was happening, Jabali jumped off the stone platform and into the snow, charging after the cat. As he went, he did uppercuts and punches, lifting the ground in an attempt to stop them. Mouth dry, Zin slid off the stone and hurried after the man. By the time Zin caught up to Jabali, he was stopped in his tracks and peering around all over, from left to right, up and down. Where'd they go? Zin asked.
Just vanished on the spot.
He grunted in dismay.
I don't get it. What were they doing here? They were just staring at us, but they didn't attack or anything.
Zin shrugged. I don't know.
Let's get inside. Call your dad.
Jabali grabbed Zin's arm and pulled them along after him, taking huge strides with his long legs. Zin stumbled but did not complain, doing their best to keep up. After a minute of rapid walking, they reached the house and went inside, Jabali sure to shove the stone door shut behind them. Ren was seated at the kitchen table, Sorella nowhere to be seen. She glanced up at them dully, Zin forgetting about Kaiokat momentarily as concern for their sister overcame them. Are you okay? Zin asked immediately. Ren shrugged. I tried to talk to her, but She won't open up. She just keeps ignoring me. I don't know what to do. Zin was sure to keep their next thought to themselves. I'd break up with her, but that's just me. Having nothing positive to say, they shrugged too. Jabali ignored the twins as he pulled his mirror from his robe pocket and called Hyaktu. Ren looked at him curiously, then glanced back at Zin. Oh, we saw Kaokat, Zin explained. What? Ren yelped, jumping to her feet. Are you okay? What did they do to you? Nothing, Zin said with another shrug. I guess they were just watching us do martial arts. The mirror did not connect, so Jabali tried again. He attempted a few more times, but Hyaktu was clearly too busy to answer.
Yeah, I'll just send him an airmail,
Jabali grunted. Are we safe here? Ren asked tentatively, clasping her hands together as she moved closer. Jabali grunted in response, the sound unclear. Should we go to the coffee shop? She added. Would we be safer there if they already saw the house, or did they see your shirts? Zin glanced down, forgetting they still had their work shirt on beneath their patterned robe. They shrugged in response, only having seen the cat as they'd run off.
We'll be fine here, and if our position is compromised,
Jabali murmured,
then we'll move to Vinetown. But let's hope your father can get here by tomorrow to place some enchantments up.
What about today? It's barely the evening time, Ren said, glancing out a small window to the darkening world. We still have hours before night, and what if they try to get in then?
I'll keep watch,
Jabali promised.
And we can all sleep in here tonight.
The twins exchanged an uneasy glance, Zin wondering if Ren's heart was pounding as much as theirs. Hyaktu called back a few hours later, but he was stuck with the government agents and couldn't leave the school, especially as night fell. Yet he promised to head out in the morning, even if the officials were still there. Luckily, nothing happened during the night. However, all four of them did not sleep, Zin jumping at every tiny sound outside the house, from a squelching plant to a shrieking deer. At one point, it sounded like there were footsteps padding lightly through the snow, but when Jabali went outside for a closer look, there was nothing there. After the sleepless night, Hyaktu showed up at dawn. He placed enchantments over the house before even stepping up to it, everyone stirring at his soft voice as he spoke. They hurried outside, with the exception of Sorella, who remained rooted to the makeshift bedroom in the kitchen. Dad! Ren cried. You're here! She threw herself on him, nearly knocking him over. Zin skidded to a stop inches away, but did not hug their father. Jabali pushed past them, throwing his arms around both Hyaktu and Ren. He squeezed them tightly, then lifted them into the air.
It's great to see ya!
Jabali chuckled as the two squealed in pain. Jabali set them down, Zin's heart dropping with the action. They frowned, unable to put their finger on why they suddenly felt sad. Was it because they'd been left out of the group hug? But why did that matter? Growing up, they'd taken part in plenty of group hugs. So why is this one different? Yet Zin did not have time to ponder it, as Hyaktu reached forward to hug them too. Zin returned it half-heartedly.
So you got away from the gov okay?
Jabali asked. Actually, they left late last night, Hyaktu said. I didn't want to call you that late, though. Jabali threw his head back and laughed, the sound echoing around the brittle trees.
You coulda. None of us got to sleep.
Hyaktu blinked. Oh, well, they left last night with a warning that if anything else goes on, they'll be back.
Yes, you better make sure nothing else happens then,
Jabali said merrily. Hyaktu took a deep breath, then released it, looking as stressed as he did on call the previous day. He nodded quietly, then turned away from the others as he lifted his hands in front of them to continue putting enchantments up. After he was done, the weary group got in Jabali's boat to head for cool coffee. Want me to drive? Hyaktu asked, hopping in the vessel last.
Nah,
Jabali said.
you ain't got a license.
What? Ren gasped, her eyes wide behind her glasses. You don't have a license to drive? Hyaktu frowned. Well, not an official one. Not for elemental magic. But how do you fly the ship? Zin asked. It's more spirit magic than air magic, Hyaktu pointed out. So I don't technically need an elemental magic license for the ship. Anyhow, I never learned to drive a boat or ship with air magic alone.
Yeah, he sent us crashing into everything when he tried,
Jabali chuckled. I did not.
Yes, you did.
Hyaktu huffed and crossed his arms over his chest, then sat down on the bench next to Zin, his eyes sparkling in amusement. Whatever. Are you going to get a move on, or should I try flying this boat again?
I'm going.
After a short drive down the snowy slope, the five left the boat on the outskirts of Vinetown and walked along the streets. As they went, Hyaktu kept his head turning, clearly looking for any sign of Kaokat. Nobody spoke, each person alert for suspicious sounds. They reached Cool Coffee, able to see Marsh, C3, and Mint inside through the large window. The trio was opening the shop, as no customers were in line just yet. Hyaktu raised his arms again and muttered a few incomprehensible words. Then he looked at Jabali, who stared up at the sky. The larger man nodded, and Hyaktu let out a sigh of relief. Well, kids, you're all good to go here, Hyaktu said, glancing at the twins and Sarala warily. Just be careful going from the house to the shop. But both buildings have Kaokat's repelling enchantments over them now, so you should be safe. Can we go back to the school now that the government is gone? Sarala asked, her voice hoarse as if she hadn't spoken in days. Hyaktu frowned and shook his head. I need to search the forest for Aster with the other teachers. You'll be staying with Jabali for the rest of the break. Unless we find Aster, of course. Sarala clenched her jaw and made no other response. I suppose I better get back now, Hyaktu went on. Are you all staying here, or... Jabali bent down, scooped snow into his hands, then flung it at Hyaktu.
Yeah, we're staying put for a snowball fight.
Hyaktu blocked the flying snow with a quick upward block. He stared blandly at Jabali for a long moment, then smirked. In the next moment, he stepped forward, doing 2 uppercuts with his arms to lift a wave of snow and drop it all over Jabali's head.
Hey!
Jabali grumbled. You want a snowball fight? You got it! Hyaktu laughed. In a matter of seconds, an intense snowball fight was underway. Zin and Ren teamed up, chucking snow at Hyaktu and Jabali with use of Ren's air magic. But Ren wasn't the only one with air on her side, Hyaktu flinging more snow than anyone else from behind a snow barrier Jabali had set up. Sarala, meanwhile, hurried inside the shop to avoid being hit. Seconds after she went in, a curious C3 and Mint came out just to be slammed with stray snowballs. The two joined in as well, Mint grinning so widely and C3 even chuckling. The teens joined forces, crafting giant snowballs that Ren and C3 then used air magic to throw at the adults. Ooh, Ren, let's build a snow person! Zin hissed in a whisper to their twin, as C3 and Mint worked on another massive snowball together. Ren's eyes lit up, and the siblings swiftly rolled together snow. Within minutes, they had a snow person standing in front of them. Zin glanced around for sticks and rocks, beamed as they found some, and set to work on making the face. Snorting, Ren grabbed a stem of dead leaves lying on the ground nearby, adding it to the snow person's head. Zin cleared their throat, then bellowed, I present to you Snowy Hyaktu Saihan! Everyone turned to look, C3 accidentally dropping snow on the adults' heads as he lost concentration on his magic. Once Hyaktu and Jabali shook the snow off them, they burst into laughter alongside everyone else. Hyaktu then flicked his wrist, summoning more snow to his hand and chucking at the snow Hyaktu's head. Zin swiftly dived in front of it, taking the hit instead. Are you not happy with my beautiful work of art? Zin cried in pretend defense. It's very lovely, Hyaktu said, hurling another ball. But it'd be lovelier if it looked more like Jabali. Jabali burst into laughter so hard that he doubled over, tears sliding down his cheeks and into his curly beard. Hyaktu continued to throw snowballs, but Ren came to Zin's defense. C3 hurried to Hyaktu's side to even the fight a little. Zin instantly aimed for the boy, grinning gleefully as they managed to strike him several times. This is so much fun! Mint squealed, jumping up and down as she scooped more snow into her hands. It is, Hyaktu agreed, laughing cheerfully. I didn't realize how much I needed this. The words had barely left his mouth when the sound of pouring rain came. His smile turned into a frown, and he dropped the snow he'd been holding to the ground. The whole fight paused as everyone watched him pull out his mirror and answer the call. When will you be back? Fern's voice sounded. I thought we were searching for Aster the moment the government left. Hyaktu slumped his shoulders. I'll be there soon, he murmured. I finished the enchantments and... You just now finished the enchantments, Khurshid's voice asked.
Didn't you get there by the early morning? Or did you have trouble along the way?
Hyaktu shook his head. No trouble, I just got a little sidetracked with everyone. Sidetracked? Fern's scathing tone came. Doing what? Is that snow on you? Were you having a snowball fight? Yes, he said tonelessly.
Well, while you're having your snowball fight,
Khurshid scoffed.
we'll be searching for Aster, who's actually a priority.
My family is a priority too, Hyaktu growled, his lip curling back. Spending an hour with them is the least I can do when we're not going to have much time together over the break.
Have you forgotten you run a school?
Khurshid sneered.
If you have, then you might as well write out that transfer of ownership now, and I'll take care of things properly.
Hyaktu scowled. I'll be there in an hour, I promise. Don't look for Aster without me. We're stronger together. He hung up the call and pocketed his mirror before either teacher could form a response. Closing his eyes, he tilted his head back and sighed loudly, looking more aged than before. Zin and Ren exchanged a glance, Ren's eyes glistening with tears. After a moment, he opened his eyes and looked around at everyone. Well, it seems I've got to go, he said. Just pretend you didn't hear anything. Have a good break, C3, Mint. He hugged his children and Jabali briefly, then went down the street, using his magic to allow him to glide along the ice. They all watched him go until he turned a corner and vanished from sight. Jabali cleared his throat loudly.
Back to work, ya two!
He called to C3 and Mint.
Twins, inside the shop, where it's safe.
Safe?
C3 asked.
What's going on? What has happened to Mr. Sundale? Does it have to do with the mushrooms outside the school? And the spirits? And what was that about the government? Is the school going to be shut down? Is our magical education at risk? What is happening?
Jabali raised his eyes to the sky, then practically shoved the kids through the door as they did not move. He closed the door behind him, though a few customers entered almost immediately after.
What's going on?
C3 asked Zin and Ren, eyeing them.
C3 to work.
Jabali called, already behind the front counter to help Marsh finish opening.
Come on!
C3 paused a moment longer, then swiveled around and walked away. The twins watched him go before turning to each other. I didn't realize that Khurshid and Fern could be so mean, Ren said in a small voice. Zin shook their head. Me either, but it makes sense why they're concerned. Aster's been missing for months now. Ren nodded slowly, staring at the tile floor. I understand Fern being concerned for him since they've been close friends for ages, but Khurshid... He just wants a school, Zin grumbled. I never thought he was... well, I don't know. Zin glanced out the window, watching as it began to snow lightly. Dad really does have a lot going on, doesn't he? We have to help him, Ren said. Please, Zin, what can we do to help him? Zin frowned as they thought. They looked from the window to the counter, where Jabali, C3, and Mint were bustling about. I think I have an idea, Zin murmured. But we're going to need to tell our friends a little more of what's been happening behind the scenes.